Hey folks, it's Cement once again, and I revisited the first one, why not revisit Watchers 2? Actually, out of all four of them, it would be my favorite. Again, I really liked the first one, but the second one, I can't put my finger on it. Even though I felt Watchers went at a good pace, Watchers 2 just felt like it went at an even better pace, and I don't know, it just seemed like it flowed better. I really liked Marc Singer in the role as Paul Ferguson. I thought Tracy Scoggins as the female lead did fine. I thought the dog trainer once again for the Golden Retriever was good, just like the first movie. I thought it was pretty decently directed by, God, I'm gonna butcher his name. Terry Knotts. Probably said that wrong. Terry Knotts, who I believe is the same guy who did The Terror Within, which is another fun B movie flick from the 80s, The Terror Within. And yeah, when he got this job, he decided to take that monster from The Terror Within and put it in this movie. Which I'm like, okay. And this also has a good score, this time by Rick Conrad. My favorite piece of the score would have to be right before the end credits start, going into the end credits. And I'm going to butcher this, but it goes like da 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 da. And this film, Watchers 2, gets like a 3.8, 3.9, maybe even lower. It does not deserve to be in the threes if I'm to be. And I know, once again, people may ask, why, who gives a shit? Because there's not really much other ways that you can see what most people think about a movie. And that's sort of one of the common places to see that, because people will vote on it and so forth. Because, like I said in my video for this one, I can only find like one other review, other than mine from 4 years ago, and like a podcast. Here, I'm the only person to have reviewed Watchers 2, and that was 4 years ago. No one else has reviewed this film. And it probably makes sense because this DVD is out of print, and Watchers 1 and 3 are on YouTube. This one is not. I guess whenever people try to upload it, it gets blocked or taken down, even though there's no other way for people to see this fucking movie. And like I said in that, I would love to see a Blu-ray of these one day. I know people will laugh, but these are full frame, look like VHS rips that artisan ripped and put it on a disc, on one disc. I would love to see, I would love that. But there's not really a fan base for these movies, except me and maybe two other people. But Watchers 2, love that cover. That was a VHS cover I remember many, many times from back in the day. Like the first one, these two are childhood favorites of mine. So I'm sure people will say, well, you just like it for nostalgia. It goes by at a pretty decent pace. Never got bored. I don't mind the monster. I didn't mind the monster in The Terror Within, so it's the same monster. Yeah, it could be better. I'm not saying the monster's great, but it's a practical creature that they usually put in the dark and silhouette and lighting, so I think they even knew it wasn't the best looking monster, but I think it has a charm to it. Again, not grade A material, but for a low budget Roger Corman production, I can deal with it. I really Marc Singer, most people remember him from The Beastmaster or the TV show V, which had some TV movies. I remember him the most from this movie. This was the film I saw the most with this guy, Marc Singer, which is too bad that he didn't really go on to do much. I mean, he's done little bits and stuff. There was one called High Desert Kill, which I saw I didn't really care for. There's another, I believe it was a film with Roddy McDowall and some others, and they were like in the woods being hunted, and Marc Singer was playing more of a coward type of guy, and that movie wasn't my cup of tea. But yeah, Marc Sr. he didn't do too many flicks. I think a really shitty sci-fi flick called, sadly enough, it was called it was called Dead Space. Not the video game, this was before the video game, but, or like another one called Cyber Zone. Just, he got involved with a lot of bad movies, and people will call this a bad movie, but it's easily my favorite of his. I really don't get why this gets a 3.79 to be. I don't give a shit if it's not like the book. It goes at a good enough pace. It does. I don't think it's boring at all. It sets itself up. It doesn't follow the first film, so it's kind of like it's a sequel, but in a way it's kind of a remake, but not a shot-for-shot remake. Kind of like, here's the general idea, we'll do our own. Which I'm fine with, because the first film wrapped itself up in a bow, didn't have a sequel bait ending, and I'm fine with that. It's two versions of the same story, and I like both versions. It sets itself up. Tracy Scoggins is part of this group, and she seems like she's more famous for doing the TV show Babylon 5. I thought she did a good job as Barbara White, who's trying to teach this dog, the Golden Retriever, about stuff, but mostly the Golden Retriever's plain dumb, as we find out later. And as part of this research project, these two agents come in, they get their stupid ass killed, and the scientist guy, he doesn't, it's like the first film where it's a creature psychically linked to a dog, and the creature will follow the dog into an encampment and kill whoever's there, and the dog has human intelligence, that sort of thing. And I believe Mary Warnoff, who has worked in quite a few Corman productions, among others, has a small role as a woman who tells the scientist, hey, it's done, it's over, fuck this shit. You don't want to be moved somewhere else, work with bacteria and germs and shit. He doesn't like that. He wants the experiment to continue, so he stages this place to be, be able to escape with this stuff, but it was destroyed by terrorists. So he hires these guys to fuck up the stuff, let the animals escape, and even they ask him, why are you doing this? And he gives some bullshit answer like, what can I say? I like animals. So they set this stuff up to let all these animals go, including the Golden Retriever. Einstein heads out. But these people fuck up. They go into this room they're not supposed to, and they get their ass killed by the outsider. And not the NWO. The outsider is another name for the creature. And there's an explosion. Things get fucked up. Both the creature and the dog escape. Scientists, oh shit, things are fucked up. He tries to chase after him. He has a tracking device on the creature. And then this is where we're introduced to Marc Sr. And I like Marc Sr. I think he does a good job. Yes, it's not an Academy Award worthy performance, but it's not, to me, a bad performance either. He has a good presence to him. He's a badass, he kicks ass, and you want to see a weak lead character? Sadly, Watchers Reborn with Mark Hamill is that. I like Mark Hamill, but his character and his performance in that is crappy and lacking. That's a shitty character that gets beat up and doesn't do anything and doesn't even kill the creature at the end. Here, Marc Sr. by the end, he's putting a knife to the creature's back, shooting the shit out of it with a shotgun, and being just a badass. And here, Marc Sr., he's a military guy who's been sent to the stockade by his MPs. I like some of the humor in this film where they're asking him, well, what happened? Well, I struck a superior officer. What can I tell you? The guy was an asshole. And the MP goes, well, you can't go slutting every asshole in the Marines. You won't have any knuckles left. And even certain little stuff where it just shows the character in just one sentence or one little thing. Where Einstein is on the road and Mark Hamill goes, hey, there's a dog on the road. And the MP's an asshole. Oh, 2 points. Or 10 points, or whatever. And Marc Senior's like, what the hell are you doing? And fights the guy off, and they go off the road, and the second MP falls off, and MP drives like, you stupid ass. There was just a dog. And much like there was a scene in the first film I always remember when I was a kid, this scene has it as well. In the first film, it was when Corey Haim and the mom find their friend whose head had been ripped off, and they turn, and there's the creature's eyes looking at Corey Haim. Here's this scene where I like that the director has most of the scene with no music. I thought that was a cool choice. And the dog's there. The one MP still knocked out. Marc Senior's character is handcuffed to the truck. And the other MP, the asshole, goes off. He hears noise. And it's at nighttime. There's headlights in front. I mean, the headlights are on. The guy walks off. The Marc Senior's trying to watch and see what's going on. And all he hears is gunshots. And all he sees is the muzzle flares. And the guy screaming. And again, no music. Marc Senior's trying to get out. He's like, what the hell's going on? And the guy just falls onto the road, revealed by the headlights. And he's trying to talk to the other guy. Hey, he can't do anything. The dog helps out, gets him the keys, ultimately so that they can escape. And it might not mean much to anybody, but that was a scene that just struck me when I was a kid. I just thought that was a nice way of doing a bit of suspense. I like the idea that there was no music and the guy's body revealed by headlights, and I don't know, it might not seem much, but I probably saw this when it came out in 1990 and I was 7. So it was probably 7, 8, maybe 9 or 10. It was in between those years I first saw this, and that was that image that always pops in my head when I think of this movie. And it goes at a good pace. They escape. The monster gets on the top of the vehicle, and Marc Senior is able to brush him off and get out of there. Also, they get to his ex-wife, who I thought she did a good job. Let's see, the actress's name. It might have been Irene Miracle. I could be wrong. I think it's Irene Miracle. I could be wrong on that. But she does fine. She's not a bitch. You can tell she still kind of loves Marc Senior's character. She's lets him stay even though she has another man there. And she's changed her last name. But she helps him out and she believes him. And ultimately they're able to escape from the authorities who think that Marc Senior killed the MPs there. And I like the scenes where him and the dog bond. I like the humor. I thought it was fun to watch when I was a kid. I still like it. Like when he's ready to turn himself in and he calls, the dog pulls out, hangs up the phone. And Marc is like, you just hung up on a colonel. And he tries to do it then, and the dog keeps hanging up. And Marc's like, no, you can't be understanding me. And he calls the pizza place, and he says, okay, I want pineapple, and I want onions. And the dog barking the shit out of him. Oh, wait, let me have blah, blah, pepperoni and sausage. Yeah, meat all the way. The dog doesn't bark. And he's still trying to figure this out. He even says, well, if you're so goddamn smart, you tell me, what is my next move? And ultimately gets him, okay, 1 bark for yes, 2 barks for no. Ultimately, okay, you want me to call someone named White? And even then he's like, this is too much. Come on, I'm just going to bed. And the dog gives him the phone again. He's like, all right, if it means so goddamn much to you. I think Marc Senior, that's a hard thing for anyone to play off the idea that you gotta believe that a dog is smart and intelligent. But I thought the dialogue was funny, and Marc Senior, I thought he pulled off very well. I thought he did a good job in this. It's my favorite role, my favorite movie of his. And he's able to call Barbara, who is Tracy Scoggins, and she did perfectly fine in the role. In the meantime, like the first film, anywhere that the dog has been, the creature will go there eventually. And unfortunately, Marc Senior's ex-wife, she's in the bathtub and she gets shoved right into the bathtub, and to the point there's blood everywhere. And some cops staking out the place go in. They find her gouged head, I think in the toilet. It was in the sink or the toilet. And I was like, oh man, that's too bad. Because I didn't, the character was decent and she did, the right thing, and ghastly way for her to go. And ultimately, Marc Senior and the dog get out of the hotel, and the creature goes by hotel and kills a guy who has a hooker with him, and who unfortunately was in the same room that Marc Senior and the dog used to be in. And once again, like the first one, it would be nice if the attack scenes had more of a viciousness, like cutting heads off, or, cutting this, and instead of, people call them quick cuts, the 80s, early 90s type of quick cuts. Because nowadays, quick cuts are like every millisecond. Here, it's quick cuts by every few seconds. So it'd be nice if the attachments had a bit more viciousness or a bit more makeup effects to them. I'll admit that. But pretty much, the two of them get to Tracy Scoggins' place. And I thought the dog trainer did a good job. Like when Marc Senior's ready to leave, the dog grabs Marc Senior's arm and pulls him in because the dog doesn't want him to go. I thought that was a little bit sweet, and that was a good. The dog trainer did a good job with that. And so he changes his mind, and Marc Senior's like, "Well, if you have any soda, you want to give me? That'd be great. Yeah, sure, I'll stay." And just little stuff. Maybe because I'm a huge fan, I appreciate stuff like this more. For example, when he finds out his ex-wife is dead, I thought it was a nice reaction from him. I mean, most people you go, "Oh, fucking done shit. Will the fucking wife die for done?" But he just had shock, and he's like numb and not overdone, not overzealous, not over the top. I thought it worked well. That Tracy Scott has seen this on the news and sees his picture on the news, is ready to maybe get out of there, call someone. Einstein stops her, immediately types on a computer and says, "No, Paul's no killer, and it's the outsider." And then you get some exposition of what the outsider is and what the program was, and they try to go see the scientist guy, who they don't know yet is an asshole and sort of a human villain of the film. And I like the story that Marc Senior tells, how he got arrested in the first place, where it was this guy, an REMF. And she's like, "REMF? Yeah, a rear echelon motherfucker." And for those who don't know what that means a guy who does not have combat experience, a guy who will send people out, but they only look at it as statistics. They never really had combat experience. Like, I guess in a way, Gorman from Aliens, he would be an REMF, a rear echelon motherfucker. And he tells about how this asshole sent the wrong coordinates on a training exercise, and someone he knew lost both their legs. So he punched his superior out and he got arrested. They go to a scientist's house, and I think another reason I like the film, I like the score, I like the cast, I think it goes at a good pace. Yes, some nice bloody aftermaths of eyes being gouged out and stuff. But I like the lighting, whether it be in the sewers and in the Tracy Scoggins' apartment at the end of the film, or in this scene here. I think it has some nice lighting. sort of horror film lighting to it. Including this scene where you see the creature behind a door and its silhouette, but it's behind the door trying to smash through. And this is part of the reason why I like Marc Senior's character. He's a badass. This guy killed his ex-wife. He's not going to run away at first. He grabs something. He wants to kick its ass. He wants to beat the shit out of it. And then Tracy Scoggins like has to talk him down and, hey, let's go. Like I said, I like some of the humor in the film. Like they're at this convenience store, which yes, it's a guy who may be of, I don't know if I would say Indian descent, but most people, was it? I'm not sure what the nationality is, to be honest. Shows how stupid I am. But I know that seemed like a, after you have stuff like The Simpsons with Apu, and you have the, what was it, Encino Man, and even in National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1, they seem like a little cliche. But I don't know, this was sort of before it became a cliche that, now they wouldn't do nowadays. I just mentioned that because some people might bring it up. It didn't bother me. And the guy was in a wheelchair. But the reason I like the scene is, the dog wants this furry toy, this bear. And he's like, well, how much is it? And the guy's like, 30 even. $30? So Tracy Scoggins pays for it, and the owner goes, you shouldn't bring animals here. And she's like, well, no kidding, concerning these prices. And sort of makes the guy mad. And sort of we're getting to the third act where Marc Sr. needs to gear up. He learns more about the project, and Tracy Scoggins is sort of the audience going, dogs, spies, and monsters, isn't this a bit much? I like Marc Sr.'s response of, well, you be, you know, you see this kind of thing in the military. Then after that, I think that was actually a scene before, and in this scene, it's about how he needs weapons and he needs guns. And she's like, I can't just walk in and buy this stuff in a store. And he's like, why? You don't have a credit card? He's like, well, they wouldn't just let me buy this stuff, would they? And Marc Sr. goes, you'd be surprised. This is America. I just, little bits of dialogue made me chuckle. I really liked. And then he even goes, why he wants to go after this creature, why they don't just run away. And then he even goes, I want it. And she's like, what do you mean you want it? And he's like, I owe, his ex-wife's name was Sarah. I owe Sarah that much. And even little things like that I appreciate, because most films would disregard that or would forget that a loved one died and they just move on. I like that little bit that he didn't forget about it. A comparison is Rogers Reborn, because at the end, Mark Hamill is with the creature, but I'm sorry, the creature is misunderstood, and Lisa Wilcox has settled it down and watches for Reborn. So even though this creature killed his partner, Mark Hamill's character in that movie is a cop, and his partner was killed and torn apart by this thing, he has a gun, and he's like, oh, okay. Just doesn't do anything about it. I'll talk more about it when I get to that fucking movie. That's what I mean. Movies like that do is shitty. Here, at least he does mention, this little things might not mean much to anybody. It does to me. I appreciate that kind of stuff. And he's gearing up and gets these. And one thing I didn't, if you listen carefully, he mentions how the shotgun shells he put in explosive charges. And that's why later on, when you see Mark's, I keep wanting to say Mark Hamill because there's two Marks in these Watchers films. Marc Sr. in this one, Mark Hamill Watchers Reborn. So if I messed up during this review, apologize. Marc Sr. says in this movie that they have explosive charges. So later on, when he's shooting the shit out of it, and there's like these explosions, like sparks, maybe that's why. And it's something I noticed hearing in this viewing. And I always liked this when I was a kid. Still do to this day. A guy geared up, fucking gun in hand, going off into the sewers, looking for this thing. I like the lighting in the sewers. I like movies, horror films that take place in a sewer. Or even non-horror movies. Yeah, like the Ninja Turtles 1 and 2 from the 90s, and Chud, stuff like that. Alligator, this bit in this movie. Because I think it's a great location for a horror film, and there's some great lighting, and it's claustrophobic, and he's looking for the creature, and the creature surprises him, gives him this deep, ooh, look like it hurts like a motherfucker scratch right on his back. Just, just bloody. It's like, ooh, it just looks, if I could feel that it hurts. Ever since I first saw it when I was a kid to this day, and he's trying to shoot at it, and he's trying to climb this one thing. He can't because that big gash fucked up his arm, and he crashes through this thing, slides down, trying to escape the thing, knocks this thing down. Because there's a bit of dialogue at the beginning of the film that shows why Mary Warrenoff wanted the scientists to stop this thing. There's been so many problems, and how even his eyes are susceptible to bright light. And Marc Senior busts this stuff out and blinds the thing to give him some time to heal and rest up. Tracy Scoggins, she's no slouch either. The way her apartment's lit at night, I really enjoyed it. The scientist guy comes up, and by this time he's fucked up, but he's like, we gotta give it the dog. And the creature comes in, and Tracy Scoggins turns around, shoots the shotgun, blows up, fucks up the creature right through the window. Just blasts his ass right out the window. Right off the window, I should say. Really like that scene. And the creature comes in and fucks up the scientist guy, impales him on this arrow, or this type of statue type of thing. I think it's like an arrow. I think it was an arrow. And she gets chased to the rooftop and climbing. I thought this was a decent way they did it. I don't know. I'm guessing they maybe had it horizontal and it looked like they were climbing. It really does look like they're climbing. Like the dog is even climbing along with Tracy Scoggins to escape to the roof. And you have a fun finale on the roof, and Marc is able to get there in time and beat the shower with his gun and gets smacked and hits in the back with a knife, combat knife, and shoot the shit out of it with a shotgun, which is satisfying. Shoot the shit out of it till it's dead, and and the way it ends, I love it. I love the score, and that's my favorite piece of the score, and when it ends there by Rick Conrad. Dun, dun. I'm doing a shade job of it. I fucked it up, but and Einstein gives the thing that's this little bear it had and toy that it had, and our three walk off into the distance, and end credits roll. It's one of those monster movies. This, for those who want to know what kind of guy I am, these are the movies I grew up with. Stephen King's Graveyard Shift, The First Power with Lou Diamond Phillips, Maximum Overdrive, Leviathan from 1989, Elm Street Films, The Blob from 1988, George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, John Carpenter's The Thing, Waxwork 1 and 2, as well as Watchers 1 and 2. Like, these are the kind of movies I grew up with. Now, a lot of things I mentioned were creature feature movies in the 80s and 90s. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And these are the kind of movies I enjoy. I like Marc Senior. I thought the cast did fine. It went at a good pace. I like the lighting in the film. Usually it's like a bluish type of lighting. The score fit the film well. Yeah, I would like to see maybe more viciousness in the attacks, kind of like in the first one. I wish that as well. Well, maybe because of budget, because this was a very low budget film. It was produced by Roger Corman. It was released direct to VHS. But I was satisfied. I liked the humor in the film. I like Marc Senior's character. I've mentioned it like 10 times, but he's the big reason why I enjoy the film. I thought it was just a good, simple creature feature monster movie. I like the idea based on the Watcher's novel. I don't like the novel. I don't care about the novel. I read the novel. I thought it sucked. I thought it was boring. I like these movies more. I think they're more entertaining. I think they're more fun. I thought the dog trainer did a good job with the golden retriever. And Marc Senior is a badass motherfucker in the movie. So if I had to say, I would say Watchers is underrated, and I would say Watchers 2 is very underrated. I'll probably list them both as underrated. I think both of these films are underrated. And you know what? I'm going to get made fun of for saying this is very underrated because people don't look at it and they're like, what the fuck, man? There's nothing special with this. Maybe not to you, but to me, I think this is a very underrated creature feature flick. Because it's a film no one talks about, not a single fucking person is reviewed. I'm not saying it's fucking John Woo in the action realm and it's Sam Raimi in the horror realm and oh it's another, balls to the wall action, horror movie. But a film that gets like a 3 point, what does it get? Just to check real quick. What the hell does it get? It gets, might as well check real quick. Go on IMDb, type in Watchers 2, which for some reason is giving me The Watcher with James Spader. I don't want that one. Even the picture on IMDb has this DVD cover. It gets a 3.6, so even lower than I thought it was. A 3.6. So yeah, I guess the reason this video is long is I want to do some defending of the film. And the director didn't do much. He did The Terror Within. He did this film. Terror Within was his first movie. He did an episode of Superboy in 1991. Then he did a movie called Fortunes of War in 1994 and Goodbye America in 1997. Didn't see either of those films, but he's done 2 films I like. Of the 4 films. That's a better batting average than a lot of directors. Fortunes of War is some film with, I think Martin Sheen's in it. Michael Ironside, Matt Salinger. Michael Nouri. No idea what that is. And Goodbye America, Corin Nemec, Ray Don Chan, James Brolin. Action, drama, romance movie. Never seen those. But yeah, I mean, if that director ever somehow sees this video, I think he did a good job. I think this is a very underrated film, and maybe that's, you know what, I'm going to put childhood favorite of mine, because that best sums us up. It's a childhood favorite of mine for both of these movies. And yeah, we'll never, if these ever come out on Blu-ray, I would be shocked as fuck. But I'm not holding my breath. So either way, really enjoy Watchers 2. Since this is the second review for YouTube, and meaning, I guess because there's no, how the hell can people watch the film if the DVD's out of print and it's not even on YouTube? I'm repeating myself. But fuck yeah, I mean, if no one else gonna review the film, I'll do it and do as long as videos I fucking want. By the way, thanks for watching, take care, and stay tuned for more reviews later.